Hey guys, welcome back to Creating Creators Podcast. On today's episode, I had a chance to sit down and talk to Michael Sutherland. Michael is a 3D animation specialist and really an incredibly talented person. I was actually recommended by Jared Brasher to talk with Michael. Jared really sort of lifted Michael up as a sort of an inspiration and encouragement to him. Definitely throughout our conversation, Michael definitely showed himself to be just that. I really did enjoy this conversation, and I'm very excited to share with you today. Check it out. So, Michael Sutherland, right?
Yeah,
I
that's it.
I really appreciate you joining me today on Creating Creators podcast. I was actually pointed in your direction by Jared Brasher. He
Brasher, yeah.
yeah he goes by J Brash FX, I think, on Instagram.
Yeah.
He's a super talented guy, and then he said that if I really want to talk to a talented guy in the 3D space, he pointed me in your direction. So yeah,
Well,
I
that's kind.
respect. Well, I respect him and what he does, and so obviously I had to talk with the guy that he respects in this space. So um,
Well, I appreciate him saying that for sure. I actually just watched his episode, it was a Saturday, I think. So yeah, it was a good one. He had a lot of good things and super kind words. Yeah, the guy is super talented and very driven, so that's super kind of him.
yeah, yeah. Well, and it amazes me just the variety of video space, I guess, in the Birmingham area. I mean,
Yeah.
although I do think the 3D space seems to be a little bit less populated in most areas, probably, but especially in the Birmingham area than just general videographers or cinematographers.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. I mean, it's I was just telling my wife like a couple weeks ago, I'm like got into this very much. It was kind of a necessity, not a want or it was just kind of a need at the job I was in when I first got out of college. So, um, but now that I'm kind of a little bit further along, I'm reaching these points to where I'm like talking to the people that I've been looking up to for forever, and like working on projects with the production companies that I've looked up to forever. So that's just a weird thing. But learning that this industry in particular, this niche of the industry is very very tiny, and everybody knows everybody, and it's just kind of wild. So
Yeah, I was actually just watching one of your tutorials, and literally as I was watching it, I was taking down notes of words and phrases that I have no idea what they mean.
Hmm,
Um, so let me pull this up real
fun.
quick. Yeah, yeah. So vellum solver.
Vellum solver. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
and circle packing and
Yep.
reaction diffusion. It sounds like you're more of a scientist than than like a video creator.
No, it's funny. Like, yeah. So Jared had mentioned that I'm in Houdini, and that's kind of what I've been in for the next or for the last like year and a half or something like that. And kind of how the stepping stone of just 3D works in general is as you get up into more complicated things, you kind of have to learn more complicated situations and stuff. Like you have to open up your physics book and learn, how things work. How do they? Why does a bubble look the way that it does? Or what? I don't know, all these different math equations that I'm not even good at the math. I just am learning from other people that are doing the math. Um, so yeah, I mean, I can like Vellum solver is a solver in Houdini. There's a bunch of different types of solvers, but it's essentially just cloth simulation. Now you can do like balloon stuff with that. You can do, I mean, you can do grain simulation and also liquid simulation with a Vellum solver, but it's just kind of the way that it calculates 2 points and their relationship together is different from a rigid body solver or a particle simulation, that kind of thing. Um, and circle back. I don't know if you want me to go through this like one by one or anything, but yeah, it's
Well, I would say I must have left my physics book somewhere else. I don't know where along the way that I lost that, but I think it's pretty impressive that that's something that y'all. I mean, because I know just people that work in the 3D space seem to have to reference actual physics often. Now, at the same time, I know y'all. The great thing about 3D space is you're not bound by physics necessarily, but at the same time, you want to replicate the reality while at the same time bending it when it sort of suits the situation.
yeah, yeah. It's always funny because whenever I start a new project, if it's like a personal project for myself, blank canvases in 3D is like the my worst nightmare. I hate it because anything is possible, like Jared was saying, and that kind of doesn't lend itself to. Uh, I think the best creativity that a human can come up with is working within the confines of guardrails or like having to do something in a box. Anybody that has just unlimited time with unlimited resources and unlimited direction, I don't think that we would work well under that. At least I don't. So it kind of lends itself to more being able to you know cut corners or work within a tight deadline. You kind of have these unique ideas that pop up. But, so
Yeah, well, I agree completely. I think too much space is a difficult situation to be in most of the time. It's
no,
when you can narrow down the actual goal and direction, and oftentimes the client. The hope is that the client does that for you to some degree, so that you understand like, okay, so this is what we're trying to achieve. Um, at
yeah,
least in my world, I would much rather have at least some general direction from a client than me just told, hey, create something cool.
no, exactly that.
Yeah. All right. So I do want to get into sort of some specific questions and getting to know you a little bit, and then we'll
No.
dig into some of your work as well. So, first of all, just tell me in general, who is Michael Sutherland?
Who am I? First and foremost, I'm a believer, and I love my community and my church and my church in general. Um, and I'm a husband now of 7 months, so I got everything figured out already. If you need any questions,
Obviously. Yeah.
just let
Yeah.
me know.
I'm in, we just celebrated our 20th anniversary
Wow!
this year.
Congratulations!
Thank you. Thank you.
Wow!
And I feel like every day I'm starting fresh and usually figuring out that I've been doing it wrong all along.
Oh, perfect. Yeah. Well, that's good to know. That's good to know. Yeah. Just keep chugging away. Just keep chugging away.
Exactly. Exactly.
We have a little one on the way already. So yeah, got after it.
Congratulations on that.
Thank you. Yeah. I don't know if Christy would be okay with me saying that. We're just not social media posters. Like we're not doing we're just gonna hard launch the baby on
Yeah.
whenever we post for the first time. So um
It's like here they are at
yeah,
5 years old, right?
exactly. Yeah. So um what else? I am a musician. That's what I did growing up, and that's what I majored in college because my parents allowed me to major in unemployment. Um, and
It's a good
so
direction for every child.
that's right. That's right. That's right. So that's a huge part of my life as well. And I think a lot of the way that my mind works is directly correlated to my upbringing with music and learning that kind of deal. I think it was more of like I was learning how to teach myself, and that principle allowed me to be able to do the things that I'm doing now, at least to a certain extent. So, music played a huge part.
So you grew up in the Oak Mountain area, correct?
I did, born and raised. Yep, Yeah,
Yeah. So I currently work for Shelby County Schools, so I frequent Oak
that's
Mountain
right.
as well as the other 7 zones that are in still considered Shelby County schools. You know, a few have pulled out and started their own city schools, but
Right.
Oak Mountain's a great community. The band there has always had a history of just excellence and um, a lot of tradition, and a lot of great musicians have gone through there and come out of there.
Yeah.
So I imagine you're with them, right? Like you're one of the elite that came out of Oak Mountain High School.
The elite. I mean, that band program is amazing, and Jim Duran, rest in peace, was an amazing, mentor and father figure to a lot of us. And then also, Kevin Ownby there is just incredible. So I don't really. I was talking about this to a friend of mine earlier. It's like it's so interesting how you know, it's not like people are moving into a certain district. I mean, you got the few and far betweens, but it's like you're kind of just stuck with what you have as in terms of a band director, in terms of a sports, uh, any kind of sports team for a school or whatever. But certain programs just lend itself to excellence, even with regime change or different classes coming through. So it's just weird how that happens, but you kind of instill, uh, you know, a point of excellence, and it trickles down throughout each of the years. So that's cool to watch, at least.
Oh yeah, definitely. One so my kids they go to Helena,
Oh, yeah.
and my girls were majorettes, and or are one is still a majorette. Anyway, they're majorettes, and and we go to the showcase of the bands, and it's incredible to see the various sizes of the schools. But then also, I mean, like you got Shelby County High School, which is a smaller school but performs incredibly for their size. Calera is always one of the best performances,
Yeah.
and then Oak Mountain. I don't even know how they fit on the field. I mean, literally, it's like going into end zone and end zone, and just massive performance, and then to orchestrate that many people, it's really an impressive feat in and of itself. Much less to actually have it sound good and make sense and be
Right.
a little bit of a story or narrative in there as well. So
Right. Right.
it's always been an impressive program. Have you seen their new building?
I have driven by it, but I have not gone in it yet. No. Is it?
It's really, oh, it's nice, man.
I love it.
The former graduates would probably be like, "Grr," kind of thing. So
Yeah.
uh, yeah,
Yeah.
but it's really nice. Well, tell me this: what role has music really played in you being a creative? I mean, especially because I did not grow up with a music background, and
Mm.
and I would say music is probably one of my weaknesses whenever it comes to video. But how has that really aided you in sort of getting into video space or just creative space in general?
Yeah. It kind of feels like I think the biggest takeaway from music that will apply each and every day to what I do is rhythm. Um, because there is animation principles that everybody, like all the animators, you know look at and try to emulate and stuff, and that's what they were doing back in the day with Disney, and that's what people do now, whether they know it or not. And rhythm plays a huge part in that. So, like, growing up and playing in the drum line, understanding anticipation and reaction, and even when you're trying to match animation to a a piece of music, or just a stinger, um, whether it's like a 30-second clip, or whether it's just you know trying to make things feel natural. Rhythm plays a huge part in that, I think, and understanding the principles of it, at least.
Yeah, my coworker Cole Peavy he was drumline in high
Mm,
school, and music has always played a huge part in his life. And he understands things and talks about phrasing and really what I see him excel in, and I think a lot of people, because I know Aaron Wilhite, he's got a music background that
Yeah.
seems prominent in what he now does. A lot of people that have that music background seem to it lends well to video space, but Cole specifically, like the knowing where the emotion in the song and knowing sort of the when not even like I guess what I do oftentimes is I cut either on the beat or I do action on the beat. But it's like this other nuance to it that I don't fully understand, where it's like, no, the cut doesn't have to be on the beat. The action doesn't have to be on the beat. There's something else to it where it's like he feels the song and then feels the almost the impact of that clip as well and can merge them together in ways that I'm still like I'm amazed by, I would say. So, and I can
Yeah.
imagine 3D space would be similar.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. I mean, I'm still, still learning and still trying to figure all that out. And it's kind of a unique process every single time you get a new track or you get a new project, just learning that rhythm and how everything flows. Yeah, but there is a point, there's a nuance to it that, the best people have figured out, and we're all trying to just look up to them.
Well, tell me a little bit. Oh, well, first of all,
Oh,
you've already mentioned it, but seriously, congratulations on the. I mean, it sounds like y'all have got a lot going on right now. Just y'all just gotten married relatively recently, and now expecting your first child.
yeah.
That's really awesome, man. Those are some really sweet moments. So congratulations on that.
Yeah, thank you.
And buckle up.
No joke. No
Yeah.
joke, dude.
Yeah, my wife and I, we have 4 kids now.
Oh,
So,
wow. Yeah, good for
yeah,
y'all.
our youngest is 9, and our oldest are twins, and they're 16. So,
Okay. Love
yeah,
that.
yeah. So, yeah, it's good. Yeah, congratulations. Let's go there.
Leave it at
I'm not
that.
jaded at all at this point, you know.
That's funny. That's good.
But I understand. Like I think it was a lot of the people you were working with or have worked with ended up going to your wedding. From what I saw, like I know
Yeah.
Billy Ivy was at your wedding.
Yeah.
Um, Dustin Harrelson was at your wedding. Those were the two I think at the time that I was really following
Yeah.
and saw that they went to it. So it looked like a beautiful ceremony at an incredible venue, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It was a really special day. It ended up raining out and we couldn't use the thing. Yeah. It wasn't as planned, but it ended up working out. We now will say it ended up working out, immensely better for sure. So
Yeah.
we
Well,
enjoyed it.
I've always said to brides and grooms whenever I've done wedding videos, it's like what really matters is at the end of the day you're married.
That's
Ultimately
right.
nothing else. I mean, everything else just sort of adds to the memories
Right.
associated with it. So,
Yeah.
and I understand. I saw a video. I didn't pull it up, so I don't have it currently ready to look at. But I guess this was like a wedding video. One of y'all driving in a convertible down like sort of like some curvy roads.
Yeah, yeah, that's the Blue Ridge Highway. We ended up doing Penn Weddings is who we got to do
Yeah,
the videography, and they're amazing people, much less amazing creatives, and really really good at what they do. And they did a little adventure shoot, is what they called it. So we got a Porsche, and drove around a little bit, around the property, and then around the Blue Ridge Highway as well. So
yeah. I mean, just from what I remember seeing of it, it looked beautiful. And I've seen some of their work before. They really are very talented. It's like
yeah.
a couple, isn't it? Like
Yeah, it's a
married couple.
couple, and they do destination weddings. It's like how they I guess market themselves.
Yeah, yeah. Well, again, congratulations on a lot of
Thank you.
the recent life changes.
Yes, yes. Thank you, thank you.
All
Oh
right,
well.
so tell me, I want to know how you got involved in the 3D space or just your creative journey in general. So you went to Oak Mountain High School, you graduated, you went to college for music because you didn't want to have a real career, and then from like how did you end up where you are now?
Yeah, yeah. So I ended up graduating. Well, I took some time off from college and I toured with the band for a little bit, and then came back and finished up and got a job at the church that I had been going to since I was a freshman in high school, Oak Mountain Presbyterian Church, which is right down the road from us,
Yeah.
and worked underneath Jason, who was an amazing mentor and now friend, and obviously an amazing boss. But um, when I took that job, the guy that had left before me was doing a lot of motion graphic stuff, a lot of 2D stuff, and was dabbling in 3D. And he went to go do 3D full time. And so when I got in, no one else was doing. I mean, there was another guy there that was doing a little bit of it, but it wasn't on the forefront of anybody's mind. But I was young. I wasn't dating anybody, so I had plenty of free time to just be able to throw at this thing that was called After Effects. And so getting into it, making words move with no easing, and it's just popping on, and it like looks terrible. It was a lot of that typography stuff that was doing back in the day, and slowly got a little bit better at that. Wanted to kind of stretch my legs into 3D. Ended up doing the Andrew Kramer Element 3D thing. That was the plugin for After Effects. I don't even know if that's still a thing in After Effects. I'm sure it is, but
Yeah.
that's kind of like 2.5D. It's faking it a little bit. And then I had a friend of mine give me his license for Cinema 4D, and then dabbled in that for a little bit. I say graduated, but like, just progressed over time to wanting to make things look real, not just move in the 3D space. And so um did some rendering in Octane for a long time. And stop me if if I need to explain any of these things, because to me these are just like terms that I've been using for forever. But Octane being like 3D GPU renderer, very fast renderer. And so that was the first step in me being able to kind of get into the realism side of 3D, trying to like get into that kind of deal.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
A couple of questions or a couple of points along your journey. First of all, Oak Mountain Presbyterian, I used to go to a church called Christ Community,
Oh
which, from
yeah.
what I understand, is a church plant of Oak Mountain Presbyterian
Yeah.
right here in
That's
Helena.
right.
And Phil Chambers was the pastor, or is the pastor there still.
Yeah,
And
Phil, good guy.
yeah, he's a great person. And just the theology that he taught,
Mm,
it really. So I grew up Baptist, and I would still consider myself Baptist, but I definitely have like a Presbyterian leaning whenever it
yeah.
comes to story, like specifically the theology around salvation. But what amazed me with Phil, and from what I understand, it's an Oak Mountain Presbyterian, thing as well, is just the understanding of grace, man. I mean, I think Baptist sort of, I mean, it's more of like fire and brimstone kind of stuff, and man, the understanding of grace that came from our time being there under Phil's teaching and stuff was incredible and life giving. It was very rejuvenating at the time. I think had gone through some jaded periods
Mm,
definitely around that time.
yeah.
So it was good, and so I've got a lot of respect for Phil, but I also have a lot of respect for where he comes from. So it sounds like a great church in that
Oh yeah.
area.
No, we
Um,
love it. It's great. Yeah.
the other thing is Adam West, is he currently? Uh,
Batman. Uh, I that
that's
sounds
true.
familiar, and
That's
I
true.
probably should know who that is.
Okay, he and I met together not too long ago for some coffee, and I think he works in the video production now
Okay.
at Oak Mountain Presbyterian. They
Okay.
do big productions. It seems like. I mean, it looks like it's like the whole, almost like one of these big sets you would see locally.
Yeah.
It seems like, but it's all church, church production stuff, which
Right. Right.
seems to be the trend. A lot of churches now, Highlands, I think, being sort of like a forerunner of that. You definitely see some of that. But anyway, that was a lot of me just taking little side tangents for a moment. Um,
Man, I love a tangent. You can tell my wife would tell you that that me and one of my best friends, Patrick, we talk in tangents, and then we will go 45 minutes, and then okay, now we're back to where we started. Got it. Okay, moving on. So
it's not always good to for maintaining like consistency of length of a podcast though. So,
right,
or
that's
being
true.
respectful of other people's time. So
Oh no.
I don't always do well with that. But anyway, so back to the I guess the software that you were referencing
Mm,
earlier. There seems to be well, two things. I've grown up or learning video. I worked on some really crappy computers in the past that Premiere Pro couldn't, really perform well on. And it was always such a frustrating point when you're like, I remember having these green squiggly lines whenever I
mm.
would play back, and then you'd pause it and you could see it. And then, so I was literally having to edit through these squiggly lines
Oh
and
yeah.
figure out, okay, now's when I want to cut, and I was having to preview it outside of the software in order to
Ooh.
know even where. Anyway, it was
Whew.
really frustrating, right? It seems like in the 3D space, that is the world that y'all live in, is constantly like either having to really downgrade the resolution or look at it through these like skeleton pieces to figure out, okay, here it is moving the way I want it to. Like very rarely are y'all watching while editing in full resolution, full color, full skins, everything. Is that challenging? I mean, because I feel like you're always limited to some degree by the hardware, especially early on. I would imagine by now your hardware probably keeps up with it no problem, but even still, I feel like you probably don't see full resolution until you export it
Yeah.
oftentimes.
Well, the good news is that I guess it's bad news and good news is that the hardware when it upgrades, so does our ability to be able to do things. So then we all upgrade together with it, and we go, okay, we're going to do better simulations. We're going to do higher resolution. We're going to do more detail, more textures, that kind of thing. So it's never going to keep up with it because we're always going to be trying to push it to its limits. Um, but I think that you just kind of get used to it. At first, I know that it was aggravating to no end. I was trying to do GPU or sorry CPU rendering, which CPUs and GPUs are vastly different in the way they calculate things, and one's designed for visuals, um, being GPU. So it was a headache. And then when I graduated to the GPU thing, built a computer specifically for it, it made it faster. But then again, you hit the ceiling pretty quickly and just get used to this um, fuzzy picture that takes a few seconds to. And so you get used to knowing what to look for, and kind of training your eye to understand a little bit more about what you're seeing versus what you're changing, kind of thing. So yeah, it's just a getting used to thing. It doesn't really bother me anymore because that's just the world that I'm working in. But it definitely takes some getting used to for sure.
What was there something in your background that really seemed to aid in you stepping into 3D space?
Nothing, honestly. I don't I don't know of like why or where I got into this thing. I just know that um this kind of situation was ahead of me and I really liked doing it. I kind of just found it on my way there. Um so that's a terrible answer for a podcast.
No, no, no.
But
It's an honest one. That's what I want. That's always the best answer.
sure, sure.
Um, what? Okay, so you were saying earlier you started off working at the church, and that really pushed you into more of the 3D space, or at least lent you the opportunity to.
Yeah.
Um, what was next for you? Where did you go from the church? How long
Well,
were you at the church?
I was at the church for almost 4 years, and at the last part of my tenure there, I was doing sermon bumpers, a la the church, the Highlands, or whatever, doing more 3D stuff. Uh, and I'll talk about Highlands and a guy that I looked up to for forever, Jake Taylor, in a little bit. But kind of doing a little bit more of that and trying to emulate what they're doing, but in my own style. And once I did it a couple different times, I realized that there is a possibility that I could do this, for money. Because at that point it was just all for the church. And so I reached out to Billy Ivy, who had been in the ad space for, forever. And I look up to that guy immensely, and was like, hey, do you have any contact? Do you have any, connections that I could be getting into the door or whatever? And he was like, say no more, and hooked me up with Shannon Clark. Now she was Shannon. Oh, what was her maiden name? Oh my gosh. Uh, mm, yeah, that's gonna.
Hey, well,
All right,
welcome to my
cut that right
world.
there.
Welcome to my world. I put my foot in my mouth all the time.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. But so Shannon Clark, and Michael are great people, but she runs now Supernaut down with Jannard and them,
Yeah.
and she was working at Telegraph at the time. We connected on Zoom. It was mid COVID, and I met with her, and essentially she was like, "All right, I don't know how we're going to fit you in, but I know that we could use this." And she got me on board. I went full time with Telegraph, in 2020, mid 2020, and then was there for a year and some change. Decided that maybe I could, kind of up my game a little bit. I loved people at Telegraph. But I was looking, to kind of edge up, and it's a very small market in Birmingham, and my skill set does not necessarily lend itself to the most, I would say, economical, friendly thing for. Oh yeah, same.
Sorry, no,
Yeah,
no,
absolutely. Yeah,
that's not. I have no idea how that
that's
happened.
funny. It's not the most economical thing for especially startups or smaller companies, and so ended up taking a job in Nashville. Was fully remote working here, and I was with Five Stone for 3 months, and then I realized that I was having more people come to me for freelance stuff, and realized that that's going to be kind of my future, if I want to continue to grow. So started doing freelance in 2022, 21, maybe. I can't remember exactly when I made the jump, but it's been a few years now, and yeah, ever since then I've just been, I don't know, trying to keep up and going and doing, and I don't know, all the other verbs, I guess, but that's
Was
kind of
that
my
a
journey.
difficult? Was that a difficult? I guess jump to make, to sort of say I'm gonna be completely reliant upon my what had been, I guess, up to that point, your side work, or were you being so inundated that it was the only thing that made sense?
It was a little bit of both. It was, I mean, to be completely transparent, the sometimes you make a decision and you go and you move to a team that it just doesn't end up meshing well, and that's kind of what, absolutely no hardships or anything with those people. I love them and wish the best for them for sure, but just kind of, sometimes it doesn't jive. Like the team at Telegraph was, we were, thick as thieves, and that just ended up working well together. And so that was a part of it. And then also, yeah, I was having more people come to me with some bigger jobs and some other things that I was like, all right, sounds good. I just need to dive full in. At that point, I was single, and I mean, I was dating Christy at the time, but it was a little like less stressful, when you don't have other people depending on you, when you're making big life decisions like that. So it seemed to be the next right move, and that's, I guess, what I'm just trying to do day to day. It's just the next right thing.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I know that that's at least for me, that's always been sort of like a thought, but also at the same time a fear of stepping out on my own. And I mean, there's so many reasons that companies are, you feel sort of attached to companies. But definitely, I think who you work with and the team kind of atmosphere definitely, even more so, I think, connects people to a company. And it looked like what y'all had at Telegraph for a while there. It was incredible. I mean, I remember when Dustin first started working there. I think was what first put me on to Telegraph, at least on a heavier level. I think I was already following them, but man, it just seemed like a dream team there with everyone that was involved. And I mean, Jannard, I've talked to, he said sort of the similar thing that just that location and the people was incredible.
Yeah, I look back on those times. It kind of feels like a fever dream. Like we were, you know, having the best time of our lives, hanging with our friends, making creative. Uh, yeah, it was, mid COVID when I first started, and so a lot of things weren't still open. So we would get done with the end of the day, work stuff, and we just hang out in the kitchen till I don't 2 a.m. It was the wildest thing. Like we would just be, I don't know, friends and do the thing. But most of it, like, well, not most of those pictures, but some of those pictures that you saw there, and then the, like, Marlboro one that actually says margarita, actually.
Yeah.
Um, those are from those times of like T-shirt Fridays, or I can't remember what we called them, but
Yeah,
it was just
graphic tee Fridays, I
that.
think is what
Yeah,
it
was
was.
what it
Yeah,
was.
yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, it was
yeah,
such a great. I mean, those are some of my favorite images that I've seen out of Telegraph, or the stuff that y'all did just for random days. It was
exactly.
really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Those were fun.
Well, and such a good morale booster, I feel like, as a company. It's such a great idea to, be able to have that kind of creativity, but then at the same time, just camaraderie that y'all had. I would imagine it lends itself really well to creative expressions in work. Not to mention, it makes work not feel like work.
100%, 100%. And it's like we had some of the best talent there, all at once, and I'm not even including myself in that. It was the other people that I was looking up to, and also young guns that like Dustin, like he came in, and I think that was his first full-time job in videography, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, yeah. I
And
don't I don't
he
recall what he was doing before, other than some of his freelance stuff.
Yeah, yeah. And he and I, we were desk buddies, and we became, really good friends, and learned a ton from each other just by proxy. Like, oh, I've got this render going on. Turn around. What do you look like? What are you working on? Explain this to me. That kind of thing. So yeah, it was fun.
Yeah. Well, it seems like a great environment, just in general. All right, so let's talk about some of your work. I was looking at, like I said, your tutorial specifically for your hard seltzer, and I didn't realize that's a spec piece. Is that correct?
That's a spec piece. Yeah, that was a the first project that I did in Houdini was that. I knew that if I wanted to get better, if I wanted to kind of upgrade my um, skill set, I needed to jump into Houdini, and it can be a very daunting program for anyone in the 3D space, just because it seems so, um I don't know, hard is just a good
Yeah.
word to say, but it's not. And I kind of dove in. So that piece is a almost a shot for shot thing by another company called Buck, who I deeply appreciate and love their stuff. They were doing it for Truly, and I thought, okay, I don't know how they did this. I don't know how many people on the team did this, but I want to figure out how I would do it. And ended up changing some of the branding. Like they used a lemon, I think, instead of a pineapple.
Right.
And obviously their stuff is immensely more better than mine. But that was kind of the first step into Houdini that I proved to myself, and now I guess others, if they look on my website, that I can do the things that I thought I could in a sense.
Well, one striking difference, and I didn't watch all of the tutorials, so I'm curious as to sort of how this came about. But where the pineapple becomes like the seeds on the strawberry, that is
Yeah,
such a great moment in that
yeah.
video, and
I,
I don't think that was a copy of the original,
oh,
right?
for sure was. Yeah,
Oh, it
absolutely.
was.
Yeah, it was.
Okay,
Yeah, they had
okay.
lemons falling into the strawberry, but I wanted to use pineapples because that was their Um, I think that's the yeah, exotic pineapple. That's the flavor at the beginning for that one. But um, so there,
Well, it
even if I'm looking right now, there's some things that I would definitely change. But I think overall, it holds up pretty well, at least.
okay. Well, I'm curious, just one of those things that you would change in this, because I don't see anything that needs changed.
One of those things. Depth of field. In It's really easy to just crank up depth of field or focal lengths as well.
Yeah.
Because it's just a slider for us. It's not a full, renting of a lens or whatever. Um, there are different focal lengths that I would use for sure, to be able to increase the realism, I guess, to this hyper realistic situation. There's some motion stuff that I would change as well. The pineapple, I don't know if you can tell, but the pineapple top just disappears randomly. Like
Right.
you
Yeah.
don't pay attention to it unless you're like looking it over and over again. But it just happened to be like one of those things where it just boop, it's gone.
Right.
And I probably would do something a little bit with that. So yeah,
How,
little things.
this was like a year ago, right? That you did this?
Something like, yeah, I think so.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, it's been a
Well, it
been a fast year.
well, that's my point is it seems like so much of what you've done has been in such a relatively short period of time. I mean, even going back to you said working at Telegraph in would you say 2021 that you
Yeah,
went there or 2020?
2020, 2021. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's a short period of at least relative to my life, that's a short period of time that you've gone from, like working at a church, doing this to some degree to now fully, creating even this type of spec work, but even that was a year ago. I imagine now, like you're already saying, like there's so much growth probably from that time to now. It's more of those little nuances now that you've, improved on.
Yeah. Yeah. Uh, it's I'm not going to say it's been hard, but it's been fun at least to be able to see growth I mean, I'm looking at those pieces that are on my Behance right there, and I've even forgotten that those even existed. But those weren't. You're right; those weren't that long ago, I guess. So, um,
Now,
yeah.
is this an example of the type of thing you would do at the church? Is this
Yes,
Psalms
Psalms
video?
is the yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
I mean,
that whole thing is cool.
yeah, these kind of bumpers now. I mean, it seems like I, at the church I go to, my pastor actually asked me at one point, "Can you do these like sermon bumpers?" And I was like, "No, no, I cannot." I was like, "I can video something, and then
Yeah,
I can edit that video.
yeah, yeah,
I
yeah, yeah.
cannot create something from scratch like this." But this is the kind of work he was asking me if I'd be able to do. And
Funny.
yeah, yeah, but it's again sort of that idea of creating from scratch is beautiful because anything's possible, but at the same time it's intimidating because everything is possible.
Yeah, yeah, it's true. Everything is possible, and
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, for that one in particular, I feel like when I am my growth is only based on the things that I'm looking at and learning in the time. And for clients, it changes because it's changing based on their product. But if I were to show you the things that were in my life or the things that I wanted to learn, every step of the way, you would see how they correlate with different techniques all the way across. It just seems like anytime I'm learning a new thing, it always shows up in that, next in that next piece or the next project or whatever. So I was watching a lot of House and happened to make that one, which is, a very House-esque in the way that whole, the old TV show intro was.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. That's cool. I would like to go back and look at all of your work and find out what TV shows you were watching at the time.
Well, yeah, maybe not all TV shows, but yeah, that definitely was for sure. And then well, I don't know, whatever you call it.
I wanna talk about where's it at? The one you did. Well, hello, the floss one. Oh, there it is. Okay.
Mm.
I love this concept. First of all, this one. Sorry, I thought I had everything muted, but I obviously did not. I'm not sure. Oh, did I get another thumbs up?
No, you got a
I don't
thumbs up.
know.
That's fine. I actually did.
I
I
don't
didn't
know.
hear it on my side. I don't
Okay,
know if you did on
good.
yours, but yeah.
Oh, it was blaring in my ears, but I wanna know sort of a little bit of the concept behind this. First of all, I
Mm.
love anything that sort of recreates the Birmingham landscape in a unique and creative way, and this one is I mean, really is like a perfect um, uh, concept of that very thing.
Yeah,
Recreating Birmingham. I love the toothbrushes that are, I guess, like the
the
steel.
smokestacks or
Yeah,
whatever.
smokestacks. That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah,
And then floss, obviously, with Sloss, is
exactly.
such a great. That one's probably my favorite. Is the floss
Absolutely.
little tower.
Well, hey, I can't take credit for any of that of what you just said because that was, I think Kyle DeMarco was definitely the guy that did the illustrations for this. I think he's freelance now, but was the art director at Telegraph while I was there. And I cannot, like, for the life of me, cannot remember I mean, I guess it would have been Shannon as the creative director, but I can't remember who was hands on directing this. But yeah, then I took their concept and uh, did some 3D modeling and got it in there, and we kind of made it all come to life. So it was I wish I had more detail to it, but I can't remember.
Well, tell me this: what's the material supposed to be? Is this supposed to be like a felt kind of cutout?
Sure. Yeah. What is it?
Sure.
Art is was something in the eye of the beholder or whatever. I
Right.
don't
I
know.
think that's beauty, but yes.
Beauty, whatever. Well, thank you for calling it beautiful. Um, no, it just depended. Some of it's glossy. I think that red building down there is glossy. Some of the characters are more kind of gummy.
Right.
You
Almost
know,
like claymation kind of look
yeah,
to it. Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
And
The building, the white building, what is that? The used to be, is it the Regions building? Used to be the
I don't
Harbert
know what it
Center or
is
something.
now. No, it's not
Um,
the Regions building because that one's the just the square one. I
okay.
think, right?
I
Yeah.
thought it used to be the Harbert Center, I think, or Harbert Building or something like that.
Okay. Yeah.
At least I think that's what it used to be. But anyway, that one has definitely like almost like a felt kind of look to it.
Yeah.
But I love it. I really do. I think it's beautifully executed. Again, just even Vulcan holding a toothbrush, like I, again,
It's
I'm a
good.
big fan of this because it is so locally driven, but at the same time, a creative expression of that. So,
Yeah.
um,
Absolutely.
is there one of your pieces that are on some of this that you're like most proud of, or maybe even that was most challenging to execute?
Oof. Most proud of would probably be I mean the happily ever after stuff with Disney, now that I'm looking at it. That was a really awesome experience to be able to be a part of.
So
Um
tell me what exactly that was that you did, because in this video, it's pretty much just a shot of the street with the sort of light show and fireworks. So what exactly What part did you play in this?
So I work with a team out of Orlando called MDSX. Brian David down there and they are amazing people. They reached out to me and wanted me to be a 3D lead on this. I don't know if it was technically a 3D lead, but um, the ask was Disney was bringing back their old fireworks show. I don't know if you know anything about Disney and Magic Kingdom or whatever. I didn't know that this was the case, but they were telling me this. They were bringing back an old show, and they had started doing projection mappings on the streets for the previous show. So they charged us with taking the show that was already existing on the castle, as you can see right there, and then bringing
Right.
it down Main Street. And as you see there, having 3D models and map paintings and stuff. And so um, that was a long project. I think that was probably 4 months, maybe 4 or 5 months. And there's a whole big section in the middle of it. It's like the Toy Story section that I was kind of in charge of and was my little baby, I guess. So that was a fun thing. I mean, it plays every night. It's just like the weirdest thing to think that my art is, playing tonight in Orlando somewhere else. It's so surreal. So
How different is doing this kind of work from what you normally do?
well, the medium is obviously different, but the principles are the same. The There's less. I mean, there's no camera animation because the camera has to be locked down as the projector is. I don't.
Right.
That's kind of how it works. Um, but making things move, matching the castle, um, you know, being creative in the way that I don't know different cogs and springs and where the balls are falling or all these different effects that happened is is all the same principles that I'm doing now, just on an actual street.
Do you have to keep in mind the depth of the building itself? Like when one pillar sort of protrudes from the facade, do you have to keep that in mind, or does everything pretty much project on like a flat plane and where it hits depth, but that doesn't really play into the animation?
Yeah. So I'm NDA'd up on this, so I don't really know how much I can say, but
Okay.
we'll see if it makes the deposition later on in the court. But
Okay. I don't want you to get in trouble by any
it's
means.
fine. I mean, it's projection mapping, and we had 3D models of the buildings all the way down Main Street. So then I would take those 3D models and based on the artwork from the concept artist, I would take those and put things where they needed to go in 3D space. And then we can render it out without those um, either without those buildings or with those buildings there with the new texture on it. So then we can change the look of different canopies or different roofs to where it had a texture on it or it was shiny or it rotated or whatever. So that's kind of a little behind the scenes of that.
That I mean, obviously Disney's one of the best at this. I mean,
Hmm.
and how often they do this stuff is really incredible. And that's to me that would definitely be a really neat uh, thing to fact about your career is that you've done this with Disney. Like you were,
Yeah.
and I say with Disney, but it was like your art definitely does live at least for the time being on these buildings every night. That's a really cool thing to be a part of. I'm hoping because a cool factor doesn't pay the bills, so I'm hoping this paid the bills as well.
No, yeah, it did. It did. Disney is good to their artists for the most part. So it was
Yeah.
good.
Well, that's a really cool piece. I was curious. I didn't quite understand exactly what it was that this showed in your portfolio. I was assuming it was something to do with the animations on the building, but I wasn't completely confident in that. So
Yeah, yeah. We as a team were tasked for a good bit um, to not give out, exactly what we were a part of, just for the mystery, or I don't know, but yeah, that's what we were doing.
nice. Is there another piece of your work that you would like to talk about, uh, or that you think is worth talking about? I mean, obviously, all of it would be worth talking about to some degree.
None of it. None of it.
None of it's worth
My
talking about.
worst, my worst critic.
Yeah, you're ashamed of it all.
That's right. That's right.
Well, and would you say that that piece brought in some new challenges that you had never faced before, or had you done projection mapping before even?
I had done some minor projection mapping, but just at Telegraph and for like the the Christmas party or the Halloween party, because we had like I was basically doing the Times Square thing where we had a projector on the corner of one of our indoor walls, and I was making things look like they were 3D from the wall standpoint or whatever. So I had had the concept of it in my head, but never to that extent. But a lot of the heavy lifting for the projection stuff um, was already kind of done for me. I just got to do the modeling and the animating and the materials and stuff. And that project was not the hardest thing that I'd ever done to that point. Honestly, it was just the most time consuming, and I mean, obviously the most rewarding in the end. But yeah, it was just kind of interesting how it came to be.
Well, it's a really cool opportunity first and foremost, but then it looks like it was well executed. So props to you and the team you were working with on that.
Yeah,
That's really
thank you.
cool.
Yeah.
All right, so let's talk about this for a moment. And I know you've already talked about it a little bit. I mean, the main thing I was probably going to ask you about this was sort of that play on how important music has been to your career. But
hmm
obviously, this goes back a long way with your love for music. I'm assuming, unless this was like a one-off moment that never happened again in your childhood.
No, I think that's either my brother's that became mine or my drum set when I was growing up. There's a cymbal stand that's actually in the kind of the right corner of that picture. My dad's set was right to the right of that, so we kind of played together even as I was growing up. Um, yeah, I don't know. That's a wild photo. Where did you even find that? I don't even know where that even lives.
Ah, gosh. I mean, I delve deep, man. I mean, it's one of those things. A lot of times, I look for family members, and especially on
Okay.
Facebook. But
Yeah.
I feel like that was on one of your pages. I feel like it was on your Facebook, maybe.
Okay. I mean,
So
I'm not even married in my Facebook. I'm not even friends with my wife on Facebook. She
yeah, yeah,
still she still talks about that.
you might want to go back and at least take down a few of those really embarrassing pictures. So
Yeah,
just be
maybe. I don't
careful.
know. It's kind of fun. Everybody should be a little bit embarrassed sometimes. So this
Well,
is fun.
I'm guilty of oversharing in general on social media, and all of my stuff is public. And my wife is like, "Why are you public?
Oh,
Stop
that's
being
funny.
public."
That's
So
hilarious. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And then my kids, they get embarrassed. I mean, especially teenage daughters. I mean, they're
Mm,
like, "I can't believe you posted that picture of me." And I was like, "You're not even in the like you're in the background,
right.
barely in the picture. The,
Yeah.
the
You're out
picture
of
wasn't
focus.
about you."
Right. Right.
But so music obviously played a big part, not only in your, I guess, work or experience in general in school and everything, but also in your family. It sounds like your dad was heavily into music.
Yeah, my dad played drums. My mom, I mean, they both still play. Mom plays guitar and sings, and dad as well. They had a a band back in the day where they did James Taylor and the Eagles and Tracy Chapman, all the sorts of stuff. Room 201 was their band name.
So
And
everyone needs to go out and look it up, right?
yeah, yo, for sure. There's nothing anywhere. I can guarantee that. But yeah, it was always a part of my life. And I played piano right around the same time, probably, and that's what I grew up lessons wise doing was piano, and so it's been a huge influence, and when you think about, I mean, now I'm thinking about this is a forefront of my mind because I'm having a kid. It's like how much of my upbringing would have been different had music not been the case, had it been replaced with sports, had it been replaced with any other kind of art. And oh, that's the other thing I haven't even talked. Oh yeah, my dad, and this was never a huge influence, but my dad was a photographer for a long time in his career, still is, but that's what he was doing for most of the 90s and the 2000 when he was working with some really good brands and won an Addy way back in the day. And so it was just, I didn't know about that until we went to the Addies, and then he was telling me about that. And I was like, I didn't know. So it kind of, I guess, is just in my DNA for me to be in the creative space, whether it's music or whether it's graphic design, or who knows, after AI could be latte art. I don't know.
Well, we didn't even talk about your graphic design stuff because I know just looking at your tutorial, at one point you go through your computer to find a file. I think it's the file that's referencing, let me see, the reaction diffusion. I think you're looking
Oh
for a
yeah.
T-shirt design you did that sort of I guess, involved reaction diffusion in it,
Yeah.
and it was really interesting. First of all, it's always interesting to sort of see into people's computer a little bit.
Oh boy.
Yeah, yeah. But then also just the fact that I saw so much graphic design that you do, which I understand would probably play very well into 3D space because of the fact that a lot of times you got to design the pieces before you actually extrude them and work with them in 3D space. But
Right.
how much graphic design work do you do? Do you do that, for as a freelancer? Or is that just more of what you do in to enable the freelance that you do?
Yeah. Well, honestly, the graphic design part of it is really just more of a and I would say like a um, kind of a getaway from the things that I do now. It's sort of a way that I can just kind of flex a muscle that I don't normally flex in a day to day, but can do it for friends and for family that maybe need some graphic design work. And I never charge anybody for any of that, and it's not that good. I'm just looking at an ideas, and I happen to have the knowledge to be able to do kind of what they want. So like I had a friend of mine that was starting up a new company, and he sent me a logo that he had, and I looked at Christy, and we both kind of like back and forth. We're like, all right, we need like not help him out because he doesn't need help. He's an amazing human being, and is killing it already in the things that he's doing. But came to me, and I was like, all right, I'll give you something that I think would be good for your company. And so I did some logo design for him and sent it back. It didn't take that long, and it was not that great, but it happens to be something that he really loves, and now it's a part of his company. So that's kind of what I do. I mean, t-shirt designs for a friend of mine, Patrick Bush, that is the director of youth ministry director at Faith Presbyterian Church. He has kind of a slew of people that he will go to for graphic design work every year, because youth ministry is never short on needing t-shirts for different
Right.
things. So I'll send him some ideas, and sometimes they stick and sometimes they don't. Sometimes they're cool and sometimes they end up looking like crap, and that's just kind of that's the way that I use graphic design year to year, really.
Well, it is neat. So many people I feel like get their connections to design through church. I mean,
Yeah.
your trajectory went through church, and it seems like it's still connected to it. My personal story started with church. My youth
Yeah.
pastor was a graphic designer, and he was one of those that
Hey.
back in, I guess, late '90s, early 2000s was doing. He was doing graphic tees for every event we did, and they were like highly designed. And I mean, he was a graphic
Yeah.
designer out of Auburn, and really was talented. He was the one that I had first heard of Adobe through. Like, I didn't even
Oh
know
yeah.
what Adobe was until
Yeah.
I talked with him and saw him using Illustrator and Photoshop back in the day.
Right. Right.
And he was doing video editing back then too, which to me seems like I don't even know how somebody did it back then. Just with the limited access and the tools just weren't there like they are now.
Right. What was the native video editing software on a Mac? I can't remember the name of it.
iMovie,
iMovie. Yes.
yeah.
iMovie back in the day, so powerful. And then they kind of neutered it because they wanted people to go to whatever the next thing is. But
What is it? The Final Cut. Yeah,
Final Cut, yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Because they Patrick was the same way, doing a lot of cool stuff in iMovie that you can't do now with like the smaller things. So anyway, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Well, did you do much actual like typical video production, or was yours just strictly? I
Golly,
always like to bring in the young pictures when I can. So
yeah,
uh,
that
yeah,
is nice. That's
the
good.
one on the far left, you're just sitting there with your arm like this around nothing.
Yes, I do remember that picture now. I don't know why. I think my date was somewhere else, and I just thought it would be funny to. I don't know.
Somewhere else.
Right? Yeah. No. Sorry. What was the question? I got so distracted.
I didn't finish saying the question.
Okay.
We
Okay.
both,
Okay.
I think, tied in on that. But
Funny.
oh goodness, now here I am, and I'm not going to be able to remember the question.
Hmm.
Moving on.
Word.
Yeah. So let's. Well, I know what it was. So I was asking you, did you ever do like the traditional video kind of work,
Oh.
or
Right. Right.
did you jump straight into just the animated graphics whenever you were at the church?
I did, and I had forgotten about that for the longest time, and I don't think that it's necessarily good work. But now, I mean, obviously not good work, but not even like something that I can put as like this is an origin story of how I started to get into draft. It was like me and my cousin on in summers would have this like little. I mean, it was plastic, blue plastic. Like one shot, there was like a little viewfinder, and you can go online, like go on the computer and download your stuff and put like just some crappy stock explosions in or whatever. And we made a spy movie a couple of times. So, uh, yes, but no, all
So
in that
none
same vein.
none that are visible to the rest of us is what you're telling me, right?
Unless you're about to tell me otherwise.
No, I'm not.
I don't think.
I'm actually going to probably I actually think this is a flex that I'm about to do.
Oh,
More
okay.
so than like something to be ashamed of. But so I'm going to show you like one of my very first videos I ever made.
Let's go. Let's do
Okay.
it.
All right. I'm not going to let you. I mean, there's no music that's going to play through this, but the visuals should communicate a lot.
I love it.
If I can hit play, there we go. So
Let's go.
this was using Windows Movie Maker.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. I mean,
Yeah.
this was PC World, right?
That's
Like
right.
probably my dad's computer that I was using. And obviously you can tell this was a 4K, 120 frames per second video that I was working
100%.
with. So
Yeah. Yeah. It looked crystal clear.
oh yeah, yeah. And I do have to say the reason that I'm flexing is because that's me. That's actually on the
Well, I was
kneeboard,
about to
so.
say that's freaking yeah. That's impressive. You're killing it
Yeah.
on that knee
Yeah,
board.
I can't do that anymore.
Man, I went to the lake a couple of weekends ago, and a buddy of mine was pulling me on a jet ski, and I was tubing with another buddy. I'm done. I'm done with those kinds of things. I don't like. I feel like I'm still kind of in a prime of my life. I don't feel like I'm falling apart. But as soon as I got done with that, yeah, and death is coming for us all.
The good thing is that you're probably at the age where you wake up the next morning and you're hurting because you remember like what you did the day before.
Oh,
I'm at the age where I wake up in the morning and I'm hurting and I'm like, I didn't
what did I
do
even do?
anything. I literally sat or maybe went and got some lunch at some point. But other than that, I didn't do
Yeah,
anything. And I wake up every morning with like my back. I feel like it's like somebody punched me all through the night. So
that's funny. That's
which
funny.
may be the case. Maybe my wife just really got mad at me that night, so just
Maybe.
wailed on me. So,
Mm.
but anyway, all right. I've had these pictures up for a while, and I haven't asked you yet. Let me go ahead
Oh,
and
it's
ask you: what
yep.
advice would you have for somebody that's just getting started, especially in like the 3D space?
Mm.
Um, any any tricks that you'd have for them, or just simply like conceptually, maybe directions for them to go?
Right. Um, Piecemeal. Don't bite off more than you can chew. Essentially, I would say go and find. There's plenty of resources on YouTube. That's where I learned. A lot of people taught like would say, oh, I would talk to me and say, oh, you're self-taught, and I'm like, not really. Like I just am
Yeah.
self-motivated to go look at the thing. So it's all you always needing teaching. No one's going to open up the program and just be able to kind of figure out what they're doing just based on the manual. Like that's going to help you a little bit if you need to search for something, but like go um, start off small, piecemeal it, and yeah, I mean it. If you're wanting to do animation, learn the animation principles. If you're wanting to do just product stuff, go learn how to be a product photographer first, because any CG artist that's worth his salt or her salt is going to know exactly how to shoot a product in real life, um, because that's what you have to do, because the GPU render is essentially just a black box, a sandbox of stuff that you can do whatever you want with. And if you have the time to be able to learn all the principles of photography and videography and animation, then you're going to be way further along than a lot of people that are just doing the 3D stuff, kind of like heads down in their own world. Because yeah, like you were saying earlier, a lot of the principles of what I'm doing is looking at the real world and going, why does that look the way that it does? And sometimes I have no clue, and I have to go look at microscopic pictures of why wood is the way that it is, or why this corduroy hat feels like looks soft in my eyes, but I can't tell you why it looks soft, because it just is, and I need to know why that is. So being curious, I guess, would be a. Now I'm just word salading.
Well,
Yeah.
I do have one thing. Like it was when I was watching that tutorial that you had done. Um, it was really funny. At one point, you even point out that I'm watching a tutorial while doing a tutorial
Yes.
because it literally you're
100%.
looking up. I think you were looking up how to do maybe a specific kind of animation with the
Mm,
bubbles
hmm.
that you were having trouble with, and you were looking up a tutorial on how to do that very thing in the program you were in.
Right.
So it's one of those things. I think for me too, it's like you're never done learning,
Mm-mm.
because each job presents a new challenge. And somebody out there, thankfully, has already faced a similar challenge and figured out a way to overcome it. And so it's just a matter of learning from them. Um,
100%.
yeah, the YouTube University is quite extensive in what you can learn through it. Definitely,
Yeah. 100%.
that's cool.
100%.
When you first started versus where you're at now, like did you ever foresee that you would be doing this at the level that you're doing it at now, or that you would
Oof.
have worked with the clients that you have worked with, or I mean, what was that beginning other than just like you said, out of necessity a little bit? Was there any forethought to it?
Yeah, I still feel like I'm at the beginning, honestly. But I think a huge pivot point in my art was when I saw the opening scenes for Westworld. I don't know if you've seen
Yeah,
the
yeah.
credits for that. Um, that is um, an unbelievable piece of art, really. And that's Elastic that did that. Now they are owned by Make, I think. But that team was using Octane, which is a renderer, not Redshift, on another renderer. They were using Octane, and that's what I had. I had the tools to be able to do it. So I was looking at my computer screen and saying, I have the ability to do that. It's right here. I just need to learn how. So, um, just over the years, piecemealing and trying to figure out how to get there. And I still feel like I'm way off the mark on where I want to be, but um, I think that I'm a little bit closer every day. And like I was saying with the hardware stuff, the target seems to be keep moving. It never gets closer. It always just moves away from me, which is I think a good thing. But um, the satisfaction of um, of reaching that goal or whatever just kind of never always hits. And I think that that's just, I mean, my faith would tell me that that's just the fall, and that's the reality of this life, is we're just never going to reach that. But yeah.
Well, I think there's beauty in the journey as well. So
Mm,
I think just the idea of always having another level to aspire to is a good thing, because I think that means you're never off the journey. Because if
yeah,
you arrive somewhere, then where are you going to go from there? I mean, you're not going to
right,
just sit back on a recliner and marvel at the beauty you've created. You're
right.
going to move on to the next project. So I think it'd probably be dangerous if you were like, I've arrived. That's probably when your journey's over. I mean,
Yeah, no joke. Yeah.
so we
That's when you
don't.
go, all right, well, I'm probably done now.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't think that's a place that we want to be, because that also means you're probably done making a living unless you are retired. And even then, I'm not at
Yeah.
the point where I'm able to retire yet. Maybe you are. I don't know.
No, we were talking about it the other day. I don't foresee myself retiring fully ever. Just I don't know. I'm already doing something with a career, like for a career that I find incredibly worthwhile, and I love doing it. I don't know why I would ever stop, because it's not like a physical thing that I can't do anymore. I don't know. You know what I'm saying. So we'll
Yeah.
see.
No,
We'll
I
see. I might eat
I
those
agree. I
words in
agree
25,
completely.
30 years.
No, I mean, that is one thing. Like, I get to go to work, even working for somebody else or working for an organization like I do. It's amazing when you get to go and do video or content creation, or just, I mean, the type of work we do in general, just creative industry. It doesn't feel like work most of the time, especially when you're
Yeah,
working with people that you really enjoy being around. And that's definitely my experience, and it seems like it's been your experience, and I imagine still is in a lot of ways.
100%.
Yeah, that's
100%.
cool. All right,
Yeah.
so what's next for you? Since we are talking about you not being done with this journey yet,
What is next? I'm probably gonna get
you
some
don't have
food.
to
I got a
disclose
haircut
NDA stuff.
at 4. Yeah.
Yeah.
No. What's next? This is something that I'm struggling with right now, and I'm a very blunt person, just in general and talking, and I don't love softball or gatekeeping or anything like that in terms of vernacular when you're talking about when you're talking to at least a loved one or somebody that you care about. And so I'll be a little blunt. I'm working right now through a next chapter of me is I'm not doing well by myself. I work well with teams. Um, Growing with the team, I think that I have a little bit of knowledge now to be able to help somebody below me that is just starting out. Not enough knowledge to be able to get them all the way, obviously, but um, I think that that whatever that next step is for me is definitely going to have to be a part of a team. Whether it's something that I build uh, through my connections and like grow my company, whether that's me looking for that full time job somewhere. Freelancers always want to be full time, and full time always want to be freelancers. That's just how you go back and forth. But my I loved working at Telegraph. I love working at the church. Those times are the biggest growth for me. And even if I am growing these past like year and a half or so, I could definitely feel myself not growing enough or not being satisfied enough with how at least I'm processing through all of that. Um, if that makes sense, it's kind of vague. I'll be more specific. It's like uh, I'm a raging extrovert. Talking to you, this is really nice, just to be able to get on a phone call and do that day in, day out. And the remote work, being a part of projects where I get on a call in the morning, maybe for 30 minutes, we get the day's agenda, and then we go on and do things for 8 hours in a silo. I don't like that feeling. I like to be able to turn around and talk to Dustin, or to be able to collaborate with other people, to have somebody else, hey Jannard, like, come look at my screen. And he says, like, you know it's too you need more contrast. I don't know what he always said, but it was something to that effect. Can you like soften those highlights, that kind of thing, things that I'm not even looking at. I'm like, I don't care about that, I'm looking at this. And he's like, no, but I care about this thing. That's what I yearn for in my next step,
Yeah.
whatever that is.
Well,
So
so I was talking with Drew Callner. He owns West Block Studios,
oh yeah.
and he was saying at one point, the shooting is, for his part, the shooting is really great because it's collaborative, it's involving other people. And then he said that's about 4 hours. And then he said, and then the rest of the project, I'm in my office, isolated, editing.
Hmm.
And he's like, he just doesn't feel like we're designed to be isolated that much.
Yep.
And it seems like in the 3D space, that could be I mean, that really is almost your entire workflow is beginning and end sitting at a computer, isolated from the world around you and the people around you. I can imagine without that collaborative element, without that office kind of experience or community,
Yeah.
it could be very isolating. And I'm the same way. I'm an extrovert. I mean, when I have worked in an office where my office was by myself, I would get up periodically and just walk down the hall to somebody else's office and talk
100%.
with them. So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, I need the energy of other people usually to at least rejuvenate myself.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I had, me and my wife went to some great dear friends of ours last night, had some really good conversation. And just even from that little part, it's just kind of, I woke up this morning and I was jazzed, just to get some stuff. I got some dishes done, and, so anyway, yeah.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you. I mean, are you looking to? I mean, you said earlier like start something. I know Jannard currently works with that. What is it, Supernaut?
Hmm.
And I understand that's sort of like almost like a freelance housing.
Yeah.
Is that something that you would potentially, not necessarily Supernaut itself, but just in general? I mean, is that the kind of atmosphere you're looking for? Is where you can still do freelance, but you're also connected to an entity or a group, or are you looking at full on like working under maybe having a W two yourself
Mm.
or W twoing other people?
Well, first of all, G, Shannon, the team at Supernaut are amazing, and I love them to death. And they know that if they have 3D stuff, they're gonna come to me, and whatever. It's just not a thing that's offered in Birmingham a lot. And so the weird thing about 3D animation, especially when you get into some of the high resolution stuff, high fidelity simulations, that kind of thing, you're looking at a lot of dollar signs. And so, not to get into the weeds too much of it, but it's just difficult to go into a boardroom with people that don't have any creative bone in their body and say, I can make this look really cool, but you're going to have to shell out for it. They don't like that. I'm married to a marketer, and she says, I know what you do and I love what you do. They can't use me for various reasons. So it's very few and far between where I can find a client that is willing to take that leap. Um, so I don't really know. It's a very interesting situation that I'm in currently, and maybe I'm just being a little too forthright, and I might tell you after this to just cut all this out. But um, yeah, I mean, I'm just gonna let God do His thing. I'm just gonna keep pressing on and keep trying to do the next right thing, and He'll present something to me, I'm sure. And even if that is, start my own coffee company, which I have thought about for years now, but who knows?
I will come and drink some of that coffee, definitely.
Perfect. Well, it's fake coffee. It's just it's
Oh,
it's
okay.
virtual
Yeah.
reality coffee, right?
That does make sense. I mean, since you're since you're in the 3D space, it
Yeah.
looks incredible. It makes us want to go to your coffee shop, which we can't because it doesn't
Mm.
exist. So,
Right,
yeah.
right, right.
All right. So another question, and this is going to be sort of the final question, is who inspires you?
Who inspires me? There's a lot of people that inspire me. That's for sure. Um, I'll tell you people that I don't. Uh, well, I'll tell you people that aren't in Birmingham, and then I'll tell you people that who are in Birmingham because I've seen the podcast
Yeah.
and I want to also highlight those people as well because they deserve to be highlighted on this platform. But the people that I look up to in terms of production stuff, Man versus Machine, I love working with them. I love what they do. Found already been chewed out of Texas. XK. I mean, they're top of the top people doing the best work. And that's really, I mean, that's really where I think my talent would be best served is being a part of some of those teams where there are a couple of people that are ahead of me. Sorry to jump back to that same
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
I'm an
No.
external processor, so like I don't know what I think until I say it out loud.
I like the fact that you've put a name to it because I've said for a long time that I think out loud and
Oh
usually in
yeah.
conversation. So when you hear something that comes out of my mouth that sounds even remotely like well thought out, it
Mm.
wasn't. It
Yeah.
literally like this is the moment that we're both hearing it for the
Yep.
first time.
Right.
So
Exactly.
yeah.
And even if you nailed it that time, you probably try to do it again later, and it's a total yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
total
External
disaster.
processor. I like that. I like that.
External processor. But so yeah, some of those production companies are who I look up to. There's a guy named Patrick 4D that does uh, he does unbelievable 3D modeling of right now he's doing like a crazy crossover between different foods, but he does mainly food through like 3D modeling, and it is some of the wildest stuff. Yeah, me and Dustin like looked through his Instagram one time because for the longest time I thought he was full of it. I thought he was getting products and breaking it up because it looks so dang good. But then he started doing some stuff that don't even exist, and I was like, oh, right. So he is actually doing this for real. So
That's cool.
looking at how he does shaders and he lights things and he models it. It's incredible what he's doing. I don't know him at all, so he could be not a fun person to hang around, but he could be
But he's
the
talented.
nicest, but he's so talented. Yeah, for sure. And just doing it day in and day out. And it's a very niche thing that he's doing. I don't know how, um, I don't know his status as a freelancer, if he's killing it or if he's, it's funny. The other day I posted some stuff on LinkedIn, and Dustin said like, "Hey, how's it going?" And I'm like, "Well, I don't have I don't have any freelance coming up right now." And he's like, "Oh yeah, I figured. I saw something on LinkedIn." It's like when people are posting a ton, then they're not making money. So as soon as you see me post, then that's when I'm not making money.
I get that. I totally get that because I mean, most of the time you just don't have time to do it.
No, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And even if you do, maybe it's stuff that I can't post for years at a time, or it's NDA, and it's going to go into an internal project somewhere else where I won't ever even see the light of day of it.
Mm.
Um,
That's tough. Is it? I mean, does that bother you at all? That some of the work you do that I mean, directly at least won't necessarily get credit for, or are you okay with that kind of work typically?
um, I I still get paid for it, so like it feels better than not. But there is, yeah, there's a bit of hurt there. I don't know if hurt's the right word, but to not be able to showcase it to the people that really need to see it, I guess, in terms of, if they want to hire me for stuff. Um, that's that's a bit of a bummer, but at the same time, I can take those concepts that I've learned and kind of, there's some other stuff on my website that I've posted that I've done stuff for internally and gotten paid for, but maybe my side of the work doesn't get, well, not my side, but the stuff that I did for them doesn't show up directly on my website. It's stuff that I learned from that are kind of, the shadows of what I did.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, just a part of the industry. Um, some things go through, some things don't.
Well, I think especially working with the kind of level that you're working at, and probably the type of work you do in general, probably lends itself to that kind of stuff more so than just general local video, cinematography kind of work.
Mm,
So,
yeah, yeah,
all right. So
true.
some of those locals that you said inspire you. Tell me about those.
Yes, Shannon, whose last name I don't remember for her maiden name. God, what is it?
I, I wouldn't even know where to look. Other, I guess
Ah,
Facebook, right?
yeah, Shannon Clark is her name now. She's married to Michael, and he runs, Second Row Law, or Third Row Law, Second Row Law, one of the
Yeah, I've heard
row
they
law.
share. He shares an office, right, with
Yes,
Supernaut now. They've sort of got like
right,
a close proximity at least.
right.
Uh,
But yeah, Shannon was
she's not
was
going to
the
help you out, man.
person.
She doesn't put her maiden name in her Facebook.
Oh dang,
Yeah,
Shannon the creator is going to be what I think her,
her Instagram.
Instagram is. Maybe it's in there. Um,
I was hoping to find family or something, but
mm,
yeah, she's gonna really mess you up on that.
that's right. Well, I'll have to go through the annals of the interwebs to try to find it. But yeah, she's how I got my start. She was the person that stuck her neck out for me, when I didn't even know how I was going to help Telegraph, and honestly, Telegraph didn't even know how they were going to be able to use me. She was like, "No, no, we'll be able to use this guy. Don't worry." So she has been and forever will be, a person that I look up to, and her designs are amazing, and she's such a kind and knowledgeable spirit for sure. Both her and her husband. Um, there's a guy named Jake Taylor who, when I was at um, Oak Mountain Pres and trying to learn the motion graphic stuff, I didn't realize that it was just him that I was looking up to. I thought it was a whole slew of people at Highlands, but once I started doing the freelance thing and I actually met him, I didn't even know it was him at the time, but I was like, "Oh yeah, you worked at Highlands." Like, you know, I used to look up, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I guess that's all me," because a lot of the stuff that I was referencing in conversation was like, "Yeah, yeah, I did that," and so he's incredibly talented, motion graphic artist, unbelievable. He works with some really cool people here in town.
Do you know his Instagram handle specifically?
He goes by McBeardish. Um,
Obviously.
yeah, but his um
Yeah, I think
okay,
that's
so
his
it's
just personal one that he.
yeah, hometeam.studio is the studio that he runs, and they actually have for the longest time they didn't have a website up, but now they actually have a website, which is awesome. Um, and you can kind of check out a bunch of stuff that they've done.
And so he is Highlands, one of their main, or was one of their main.
Was
Yeah.
one of their main guys. So yeah, and he worked on the Disney thing with me right there. So that was cool.
I wonder if he's the guy that I've seen. Because you said Beardish, or that's the name of his
Yeah,
Instagram. Um,
McBeardish.
McBeardish. I feel like he may end up being the guy that I saw because I went out and they were doing like a dad. I think it is. They were doing a Father's Day video. This was a few years back,
Yeah.
and I got to go and sort of observe it behind the scenes, and I think he was one of the main actors in it.
Oh,
Yes,
funny.
yes. So I'm going to pull up this picture real quick on his Instagram. So this is him on the far left, right?
Yes. Yeah, that's him.
Yes, yes. So I saw him then acting in
I
this
thought that was
Father's
him.
Day. It I think so.
Yeah.
But
I don't want
sorry,
to misrepresent
I
him,
clicked
but
away. But he was. I had heard then that he was like their main, I guess, animator
yeah.
for a lot of the stuff they did, especially a lot of the sermon bumpers. And I knew then he was super talented, but I assumed the same thing, that probably he worked with a team of people. But
I think there were other people there, but the things that I particularly loved about the motion work that they were doing, I went into specifics, and he was a lot of that. He was a lot of the heavy lifting for sure.
yeah, yeah. Well,
So
I've heard, met him before and heard of his work, and I didn't realize that he had stepped away and was doing his own thing. So I'll definitely have to connect with him and reach out at some
yeah,
point,
for sure.
because
Super
his
nice
work,
dude.
yeah, he seems amazingly talented. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's cool. Um,
Yeah.
All right. Anybody else? Another local, or are those the? I mean, I know there's probably tons of other people that you could talk about,
Yeah.
but those are probably two great ones for me to reach out to. I know Shannon Clark. I've been meaning to and still continue to, or plan to reach out to her and get her on. I think she would be a great one, from what I understand. And I still think the story of Supernaut is really cool, and I would love to tell more about it.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. They've got an awesome thing going. It's great.
Yeah, they just
Um,
opened the new studio, I understand.
yes, Lucid, I think
Yeah.
is the name of it. So yeah, it looks cool. It's actually in the place that I have my like I was living in before we got married. So that's kind of cool. Not the
Yeah.
exact room or whatever, but just the area.
You had the psych wall right there in your corner.
I did. I slept on the psych wall, just a little bit on the edge.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you taking the time today, Michael, just in talking with me and sharing your story. I think your work is incredible. I mean,
Mm.
I told when I was talking to Jared, I was like, I'm so intimidated by your work, and I would say the same thing. I mean, both of y'all, just the 3D space in general. And again, I know, just like you were saying earlier, if you break it up into chunks, it's learnable,
Right.
but it's extremely intimidating. And even the kind of words that you use that we were talking about earlier, The fact that you talk about picking up your physics book, I mean, all of that just seems really intimidated. But at the same time, because of that, and I think the level at which you execute, I really admire your work and
Mm,
really respect just the years that you've put into learning it and improving it, and even more so the fact that you don't even see yourself as being I say professional, not, I mean, obviously you're professional, but
I am
you're
not.
not, well,
I'm not
you're
at
not,
this microphone. I am not professional. I could say that.
well, you don't see yourself as being done. You see
Mm.
yourself as still working on your craft and
Hmm.
honing your skills. So, much respect for that, seriously, and props to all that you've been able to do over the years.
Thank you. No, I appreciate it. And what you're building here is awesome. And I am so appreciating that you brought me on and your kindness towards the Birmingham crew. And yeah, this has been fun. And thank you for having me on. It's been a pleasure for sure, man.